Is it recording?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Kat.
I'm Sam.
And welcome to the Selvage podcast.
Yeah. So I think for this first podcast, we're just going to kind of explain what our plan is.
Because this is our first podcast. And
so thank you so much for taking the chance and clicking on the link and watching us for this first awkward podcast. But I think we're just going to explain kind of what the idea behind Selvage is, our plans for the future, and then we'll actually get into talking about some knitting.
Which is our favorite part.
Yes. So we have been talking about this idea for a video podcast and some resources for knitting for a really long time. And we are slight perfectionists, and so we kind of get stuck there, so we decided we're just going to
Go for it.
Put it out there, let it grow organically, and see where everything takes us.
Everybody's into organic things these days.
Exactly. So this is going to be a really organic
experience.
Yes. So you actually experienced something the other day.
Yes, it was interesting. I was sitting and I was knitting. I was sitting with a friend of mine. She's 18 and she was crocheting and I was knitting, and we were approached by this older woman we both know who was just so excited to see that we were knitting and that we were doing some kind of fiber craft and that we were working with our hands and we were making things. She seemed to feel that it was a dying art and that it was being lost to time. And, I feel like a lot of people feel like if they haven't had it passed down from their grandparents or can't pass it to their grandchildren or their family members, that the art itself would be lost. But that's just not true. And I told her when she expressed that thought to me that no, this is actually a growing movement. The making things, creating things, it's still very much alive, and people are very interested in continuing to knit and do embroidery and sewing and all of these things that maybe were necessities and maybe homemaking skills that people, I feel like, rebelled against
for a time,
but
right.
We're really coming back to it and having the ability to put it all out there onto the internet and share, not just with our family members or our close friends, but with everyone out there, being able to share ideas, what we're doing, what we're making,
right.
What we're learning. It's really a great opportunity. It's what we really want to do here at Selvage, is share with you.
And you and I, neither of us learned in a traditional way.
No, not at all.
I didn't learn from a grandparent or, generationally, nothing was passed down. I actually used YouTube. But I learned, I guess it was like 10 years ago now, which makes me feel really, really old. But I used YouTube, and while there were tutorials out there, there's a lot more now. But that's how I taught myself how to knit. And then I met this lovely lady at work and taught her how to knit. And
I did have a grandmother who was trying to teach me to knit, but that didn't work.
So it's a non-traditional way to pass on this information. We have this technology and
the ability to connect with people who are like-minded and who have your style, and maybe instead of maybe making a granny square blanket, you want to make a sweater that you can add to your wardrobe, or
things that are actually wearable and you can incorporate.
Or things that you want to make for your kids, or things that you don't ever want to make for children. You have options, and it's such a huge, vast variety of what you can access in the knitting world when you have it available online.
Absolutely. So we're going to be doing a video podcast, obviously. And then we also have a website that we're working on that's going to have different knitting resources. And not just knitting.
Yes, not just knitting.
Mostly knitting, because that's really our thing. But
and we also dabble in all sorts of other crafts.
Right.
I love to decorate cakes.
She's really good at decorating cakes.
And I'm trying on embroidery. I embroider on felt. I
started doing macrame. Yeah. So we have a lot of different
really
things.
Bad at sewing.
Yes, but we love it.
And we want to learn.
Yeah. But we know people who are really good at it that we can bring on to the podcast.
Yes.
So
we'll be branching out, but knitting really is our niche.
It is. So we're going to have a lot of resources on the website. We're going to be doing some, tutorials. I know that talking to some of the experienced knitters out there, asking them what they wanted to see in a tutorial. Some of them just kind of, they see something in a pattern that they're not sure, they can't remember how to do. And so they wanted something that was just really fast, easy, and mostly just visual.
And simple.
Simple. So we're going to do, we already have a few filmed.
Because we have a YouTube channel right now also. Yes. You probably found us through the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And in addition to the podcast, we have some of our knitting tutorials up, and we're going to be adding to that as we go. Right now it's just knitting basics, but we're going to expand into all sorts of different techniques. And
and also, Kat is so good at fixing and reading knits.
Because I make so many mistakes.
Well, but she's so good at finding them and fixing them. And because she's a perfectionist, she's gotten really good at fixing them and explaining how to fix them. And so she's going to be doing some really common mistakes that we'll film how to fix. And then maybe people eventually can even send in their mistakes and see if you can help them virtually.
Because we would love to have some question and answer to this podcast. It's going to grow and change over time into what we think it should be, and maybe what you guys also should think it should be, could think it should be, should think it should be.
Okay, Dr. Seuss. This got really good. No, I love this. I want it to be organic. So
there you go, organic. But we want to be able to communicate with you. We want to hear what you have to say.
Yes.
And be able to tailor what we do to what you want to see.
Exactly. And we're going to be doing different segments. They'll kind of be like on a rotating basis. Some will be pretty regular, like what's on our needles, new yarns or colorways.
Because there's so much going on in the dyeing community.
Oh my gosh.
So much great yarn out there. So much. Yeah. And we just can't not talk about that.
Well, I mean, and that's really, people want to see that. They love, it's the yarn.
It's yarn.
And then we have some interviews lined up.
We do. We already have some interviews lined up, so that'll be really exciting.
Yeah. And we are going to go to
We're going to be at Rhinebeck this year.
So we're going to kind of do
it's our first time too.
I know, it's our very first time. And we're going to film while we're there and be able to share the experience.
For those of us
who
are like us, haven't been able to go until now.
Yes. It's been we've been knitting for like 10 years, and this is our first time going to Rhinebeck. So I guess we should tell them a little bit about ourselves.
Yeah, because why would you want to be watching us or asking us any questions?
Right. Maybe we should explain that. You go ahead and start.
I am Kat. We already established that fact. I'm a mom. I have a lot of kids. I'm a wife. I'm married. I also am a working mom. I have a full-time job as a sign language interpreter. I've been knitting now for about 8 years. About 8 years since she taught me. And it's just sort of become my everything. Knitting is that just wonderful craft that really helps bring all of the little parts of my life together and gives me a stable...
It's a constant.
It's a constant, stable place to come back to.
Yeah, and it gives you something to also, like, you are traditionally teaching your kids.
I am.
Which is a really cool thing.
Yes, both my kids are learning to knit, and they love it, and it's something that we can do. We have knit nights at home, and they're really special. And again, my love of knitting is something that I really just want to share. We also work with, there's a local dyer here. We're from Frederick, Maryland, and we work a little bit. We've gotten to kind of dip our toes into helping out with her operation.
Yeah.
We do, I do a lot of test knits and sample knits for her and for some of the other designers in the area. And it's been something I've really enjoyed.
Yeah. I'm Sam, as we already established as well. And clearly I'm also from Frederick, Maryland. And also a sign language interpreter. So you'll see us moving our hands a lot because we can't really help that. It's really ingrained in us at this point. I taught myself how to knit about 10 years ago. And I don't remember what. I literally one night was just like, I am going to knit myself a scarf. And I went to, of course, Joann's, picked up a knitting book, picked up some probably Susan Bates needles and some acrylic yarn and
just went for it
and loved it instantly and never really looked back or stopped. And I just kept using YouTube and all these different tutorials to teach myself how to do more. And then once I got you into it, then you don't do anything halfway. So you went deep into the world of Instagram and you found like all of the designers and all of the patterns and all of the yarn and all of the bags.
All of the bags.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit, I might have a bag problem. We're going to have to touch on that at some point in one of our podcasts
But you use all of yours.
I do use all of mine because I usually have so many projects going at the same time that I do need that many bags.
You do.
Which is, that's what my justification for buying more, which I will be doing.
You don't need a justification. You work.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. So, I just literally got, I don't know, I got like the knitting bug. I don't know. Just decided to knit one night, and I've been knitting ever since. And we've had like knitting parties, knitting groups.
You're a great teacher of knitting. You are very, very good at helping. We've had so many people in our, circle of local friends who've come to us and been like, "Hey, I want to learn to knit," and our knitting group has grown so much, and that's all up to you because you really are. You have the patience to really explain all of it to everyone.
Thank you. But I love it. I love bringing it to people. I mean, because it's done so many wonderful things for me, mental health wise. I think again, it's such a constant.
And we'll have
really
to definitely
adaptable.
get into that as well. I think that's a topic we should talk about in a future episode, is just about all of the mental health benefits of crafting.
Absolutely.
Because that is a topic that is very near and dear to both of our hearts. I think it's something that we'll have to get into more.
And I think it has to do with the community too, because the community is just so supportive.
The knitting community is one of the most amazing supportive communities, even when you get onto like the online kind of, where so many people talk about like the online nastiness and the tearing of each other down and all that stuff that happens on Facebook and Instagram. And I've never seen that in the knitting community. That never happens. Everyone is so supportive and so kind and so just about each other. And it's one of the wonderful things that
it's really cool. And it's a rarity these days.
It is. And it's something I definitely want to be a part of and I want to contribute to because it is such an amazing.
It's an amazing community.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a little bit about us.
And a little bit about what we're doing moving forward. So we're going to now start one of our most regular segments, and that is What's on Our Needles.
Yeah.
Right now, unfortunately, I have so much I'm working on right now. I have so many projects in the works, but a lot of them are test knits and sample knits that aren't out yet, so I can't show you. And I hate that because I really want to show everybody what I'm working on because I'm so excited about them.
You would also be in trouble.
I would be in trouble because I'm not supposed to do that.
No.
But what I am going to show you is what I've been working on, and this is just for me. And I don't know about you, but when I'm knitting just for me, it takes forever. I'm really, really good at planning and organizing and knitting quickly when it's for someone else. But when it's for me, I just let it, I don't prioritize myself, and that's terrible. You should never do that. Put yourself first. Anyway, so what I have here is the Andrea Mowry Birds of a Feather shawl. And I'm getting there. I'm really close. You can kind of, it's getting there. I'm down to the last laced repeat, and I am just in love with this shawl. So I am in love with the yarn. It is Farmer's Daughter yarn, and it is her Mighty Mo and Foxy Lady, and the colors are...
The Foxy Lady has silk in it, right?
Yes, it's so soft, and it's a really great summer knit.
Yeah, it seems to be really hot this summer too.
Yes, and at least here in Maryland. I don't know where you're watching from, but it is very warm here this summer, and it's great. I took this with me to the beach. We went to Rehoboth, and it was really nice to knit on the beach. It's light, it's airy, and if I finish it before the end of the summer, it would be a wonderful summer beach wrap.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe not a beach wrap, but like walking on the beach
at
night.
Yeah, you don't want to get this like wet.
No, that's no. But I am just in love with the yarn. The pattern is really, really a great pattern. And it seems like the summer pattern. I've seen so many people are knitting it right now. And maybe it is because it is just a great summer, light, warm weather.
It is.
Knit.
And can we talk about the amazing things that Farmer's Daughter Fiber does with colors?
Oh my goodness. She has changed me forever when it comes to colors. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I am the kind of person who loves grays and blacks and darks and neutrals. I am not a pastel person by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
But we saw her at Stitches West, and I just could not get enough of her yarn. And it's pastel.
She makes pink look good.
She does. She makes pink look good for people who don't like pink.
It's so far outside of my comfort zone. I would knit it for my daughter.
Yes.
I would never knit it for myself before, but now I will wear pink.
And it's because her pastels are different. They're like a nostalgic pastel.
Yes, that's the perfect way to describe it.
It's, and it's just, I don't know what it is. It has this sort of antique, old-fashioned, but old-fashioned made new look to it, and it makes it very wearable and very, very fun. And like, this isn't particularly pink, but it's, again, going towards the grays, but
there's still pastels in here.
There are definitely pastels, and there's little hints of pink. In the Heartbreak Hotel colorway, there's hints of pink and yellow and blues and grays, and it's lovely. And I did end up bringing home some yarns that were on the pastel spectrum. Some of them.
You did have some pinks, which I was really surprised.
I did, and I also got a big old stack of Mighty Mo. I thought I would never ever touch mohair in my life, and here I am with more mohair than I'll ever know what to do with, because I just love it so much.
It's so light, it's so airy. It's really cool knit by itself.
It is. It has, because it gives you a totally different texture, and texture is so in right now.
Like, I feel like it's the new fade.
It is texture.
Yeah.
And there's so much cool things going on with texture right now in that designers are coming out with, like, right now.
Yeah.
And mohair really does so many fun things. I don't know why I was under the impression it was itchy, but it's definitely not.
It's so soft.
It's so soft.
I love it. I have so much mohair.
Well, I could wax poetic about this for significantly more time, but let's see what you have on your needles.
Okay, so I am also working on an Andrea Mowry pattern. And, oh wait, no, we gotta talk about the knit along.
Oh, yes. Farmer's Daughter is doing a knit along right now. It's the Easy Summer knit along. So she wants you, it's running on Instagram. So you use the hashtag, it's kniteasy_2018. And you can post where you're knitting, where you're taking your Farmer's Daughter's knits to. And I know I posted a picture from when I was on the beach knitting, and there are fabulous prizes if you participate. So if you're working on something Farmer's Daughters, post it on Instagram.
Yeah, using their hashtag. All right, so like I said, I'm also working on an Andrea Mowry pattern right now, which is also part of a knit along. It's the Magpie Fibers knit along. They are doing the, let me get this out, the Wool and Honey knit along. This is done in Magpie Fibers. This is the domestic fingering yarn in the Tupelo Honey colorway, which is very fitting for a wool and honey
sweater.
The
honeycomb and the honey. It's all very
texture, as we were saying.
Texture.
Yeah. And Magpie Fibers is running a knit along right now in their Ravelry group. They have really good prizes. You don't have to use Magpie Fibers yarn for it. You do get a second entry if you do. But there's 3 really awesome prizes, so if you're interested, I don't think it's too late. I think the end date is in September. So you still have time to join and knit up this really awesome sweater. I just finished the yoke, which has all of these hexagons in here. It is done in garter in the round, which seems mean, but it makes a really cool texture.
It makes a really cool texture, but also it gives you that opportunity. I don't know how many of you, I had this problem for the longest time where my knitting tension and my purling tension weren't exactly on point. When you're doing a lot of garter like this in the round, it really gives you the opportunity to work that out.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, but I really do like things like that. I like my knitting, the mechanics of knitting and working on the little nuances of it. And
absolutely.
This sweater is one that really helps with that.
Always improving your technique.
And this sweater has so many cool little things going on. It has the tubular cast on. I tested this one. It was an exciting test knit to do. So the tubular cast on for the neck, the elongated stitches for the honeycomb, the garter in the round, the short rows in the neck. You've got a lot of really cool techniques going on that you get to use.
There's a lot of interesting stuff going on in this, for sure.
Definitely an engaging knit, and it's
absolutely. I have not lost interest in this at all. I'm actually excited to get to just garter because the elongated stitches were. It wasn't complicated necessarily, but you had to really pay attention to what you were doing. It is not something that you can watch TV and knit without paying attention to, without having to do a lot of thinking.
It's nice to have those sweaters that have a balance of really, really focused parts and then really, really, TV knitting.
Yes, it's nice to have, that all-in-one project. The one thing I do recommend for anybody who's deciding to do this is when you do your gauge swatch, I would recommend doing some of the elongated stitches. When you knit into them, you're going to rat more than once to create those elongated stitches. And depending on the yarn and your tension, it's going to differ from the designers. Especially because it was designed using the loft yarn, which
Brooklyn tweed
behaves so differently from
it's such a unique yarn. It really has a different loft to it than a lot of other yarns. So when you are using it, it does very different things.
The elongated stitches definitely look and behave differently using that yarn than using something else. So it's not to say that you can't knit it in something else. I mean, I'm knitting it in this, and I think it looks
amazing.
But I would definitely recommend playing with the number of times that you wrap to see how many times and whether or not you need to do as many as the pattern says, or maybe one less even. So that's just a little advice.
And a lot of people in the knit along have mentioned that.
Yes.
Have mentioned that the tension on their wraps weren't necessarily what they thought it would be, and they thought it was looking loose.
Yeah.
So again, it's something that people have talked about.
Yeah, but to save yourself like a headache and time and thinking and glasses of wine, then I would recommend putting that into your gauge swatch.
Show them the seam.
Oh yeah, I love the seam.
I just love.
So, I don't know if you can see it there, but there's like this seam that's created in the back because it is garter in the round. And
I know a lot of people in the knit along and a lot of people I've seen have come up with ways to hide it, but I think it's so cool looking.
I think it's a really cool feature.
Yeah, I think it makes it look
sweater.
very
like something you would buy in the store.
It does. It gives it a store-bought quality.
It's like a finished look to it.
I like that. And I know that that's a preference thing, but I think it's a really, really cool feature of the sweater.
And the shape of the sweater is also something you would see in stores right now.
It is such a modern silhouette.
Yeah.
It is so very cool. Almost, and when I was knitting it, and I know I've heard other people who've knit it say the same thing while they're knitting, is it's like, oh, this is maybe too modern for me because it's a little croppy, it's a little bubbly looking, but man, once you block this thing, it turns into, it's just magic. It looks beautiful on, and for those of us who maybe have had 5 children and don't need like all the croppiness,
right?
It's a wonderful silhouette, and it shows all the right parts, it hides all the wrong parts, and it really is a great shaped sweater.
I think that I remember when you were test knitting this, and I remember the fear because it was really short looking at the time. I think that this sweater is a really good depiction of how blocking can really transform.
Which is a lesson I've learned way too late in the knitting game. I've made so many sweaters early on where I was like, all done, it's done. I finished knitting it and I didn't block it and I couldn't figure out what was wrong.
And why it didn't
work.
Fit right. But yeah, blocking is like black magic sometimes.
It is.
It's bizarre what it can do.
It really is, and it's such an important step. Don't skip it.
Yeah, do not skip that. We'll definitely have to do like
That's going to be an episode.
Because that's really important. But so that's what we are currently working on, or one of many things that we're currently working on. But we wanted to add this to the first episode so we could actually get talking about some knitting and not just telling you what we were going to do in the future. So
yeah, thanks for sticking with us the whole way through.
If you're still here, maybe.
And we hope to we hope to be doing this often.
Yes.
I think often is a good word to use because we're not sure exactly how often.
Again, this is going to be, we're growing organically with you guys, so feel free to please leave us feedback, suggestions, anything that you want in the comments. We do have a website that we are launching, and we have
the YouTube channel.
The YouTube channel, we have Instagram, Twitter, and we are working on Pinterest, and we're going to have all those links. That'll be right up at the top of the YouTube page. So feel free to click on those and check us out. It's in one of these directions.
It's one of the corners.
Yeah, they'll find it.
There's
pictures.
Thanks again.
And
we'll see you soon.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Was that bad?